episode of Between Sundays, Pastor John chats about discipleship and the impact it has in the life of a believer.
Hey, welcome to Between Sundays. I'm here with Jacob McMillan, and we're going to talk a little bit about discipleship. Looking forward to the chance to do discipleship training coming up, and also as one of our key things within the church, making disciples of believers, and so excited to be able to do that. Hey, Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing great.
So I know you're really excited about being on this podcast. Everybody wants to jump on camera and talk. I've already had your wife here.
Yep.
So honestly, we're really setting this up for a competition. Who's going to get more views? And
she'll probably take it there. So
she might. People are interested for sure. Who's going to be leading their children? So, but start off with just tell me a little bit about yourself, and you don't have to give me a whole story of faith, but how long you've been here, what drew you to Rainbow Forest, some of those things.
So let's see, what drew me to Rainbow Forest? I was at our last church. We served in children's ministry there for a while, and we really plugged in for about 8 to 10 years, and just there was something drawing me to more, to have deeper messages on Sundays, and like just to be, I guess, more in the Word than what we were doing. And so about COVID hit, and we had our second child, Walker, and I just felt like it was time to go at that point and start searching. So we visited a couple churches, and came to this one because I heard there was a new pastor, and my mother and father-in-law come here. So
Sure.
I wanted to come see the new pastor, hear the new pastor, and so I came. Me and Lawson came, and from the moment I walked in, everybody was really friendly, just from the get-go, and just kind of, which was a good feeling,
Sure.
And sat down, and you started preaching, and I could tell your messages were more in tune with what I was looking for, not necessarily like messages for the new believer, but for the people that were already members, to like really grow them in faith.
Sure.
And I was like, this is what I've been looking for. So that's kind of what drew me here, and been coming here ever since.
Yeah. So from that moment, walking in, eventually joining the church. And I know we had conversations about that because I got to do your membership interview at our house over dinner. But then, I asked you to join this weird and wonky discipleship group. And so tell people that maybe don't have an idea what that means or what that is, kind of like both that conversation and now having walked together for somewhere over a year.
Yep.
Intentional discipleship.
So I was actually working on your house when you asked me, and it kind of caught me off guard. But I'd already told myself like I was really going to try to like grow while I was here. And as soon as you asked me, it wasn't a shock to me because I knew the Lord was calling me to something, just didn't know what it was. So you asked me, and I was kind of hesitant, at first, as anybody would be, but decided I was going to say yes. And so that was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago.
Yeah, year and a half.
Yeah, and haven't regretted it, that's for sure.
Sure. So when I say discipleship, or particularly discipleship group, how would you explain that to someone else?
It's just a small group of probably believers who already have trusted Christ, not necessarily somebody that hasn't, but believers in particular. We do 4. I mean, probably up to 5 or less.
Sure. Yeah.
To where you can really focus on the relationships that you're building with one another, like grow in the Word, just really study it and talk about it, and press in a little deeper than you would in like a small group or something like that. So
sure. And I think when people hear discipleship, they think maybe a greater intensity of study, and that's it. And that certainly happens. We're journaling through the Word day by day. We're encouraging one another, praying for one another, texting back and forth, checking in on each other, giving updates of life and stuff like that. But I think the aspect of it is we're also pressing into the obedience. Are we being obedient? And gauging and asking that question to not just grow in some content knowledge, but like, how are you treating your wife? And how are you leading your family? And how are you doing conducting business? And how's your work honoring Christ and things like that? Yeah. So certainly a lot of those things that are a part of that. And then additionally, the chance to be able to say within 3 or 4 guys, a comfort level, certainly not maybe at day one, but within a few months to be able to share wrestles with sin or overcoming particular hurdles. Like we've seen in our group, a few of us overcoming particular sins, making changes that have been fruitful in our lives. And so I guess as we're thinking through that, tell me what happens within a discipleship group that doesn't already happen within corporate worship or a small group setting.
So one thing just that pops in the top of the forefront of my mind is just like you have a chance to speak about what God's doing in your life. And it's not like you can just sit back and you don't have to actually participate. In this setting, like you have your moment to tell others about what God's doing in your life and where He's growing you, where He's stretching you and pushing you. And then also you get to actually encourage other people who are pressing in on things that's stretching them. And I would say that's the biggest difference between a discipleship group and a small group is you actually have to be engaged.
Sure, you just can't show up and let everybody else do the talking and then say hey and walk out of the room and hey, I went to my small group. I'm part of a community and things like that. Someone's going to stop and ask you, so what'd you read? What did God show you from your reading? How have you been obedient? And you get to share some of those things, which is, like you said, I think it's really encouraging to other guys in the room, and obviously ladies with ladies, guys with guys, to be able to hear how God's working in the life of somebody else. Even if He's not working in your life that way, you are encouraged because sometimes it's really helpful to get out of our own heads and our own lives to be able to see some evidence and fruitfulness. And I think one of the things I enjoy about it is the fact that, you know, we started in December of last year, so not the year before last. So, and so everybody was at a particular place with the Lord, particular points of obedience, knowledge, wisdom. And now I think as we look back over it, week by week, it didn't seem like monumental change.
Right. Yeah.
But I would say now we'd look back and be like, well, man, I'm doing this now that I was never doing. I'm doing this, and I didn't see that happening. And so it's quite a big transformation in the individual lives that maybe wouldn't have happened or maybe wouldn't have happened as quickly without some intentional disciple making. And so I think that's evident. What people probably don't know is when I asked you guys and you guys said yes, then I gave you a document. I called it a covenant, and you guys signed an agreement, which is pretty intense kind of contractual kind of agreement. So your thoughts? I give you a piece of paper that says I commit to do this, 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 and this, and I'm signing my name on it. I'm dating it, and what's the feel of that?
I was like, this is serious. You know, as soon as I was handed that paper, and I was like, there's no backing out of this. Once I sign it, I'm in, and which is a good thing, because if you really want to grow in something, you have to be consistent, and you got to have people not only pulling you up but pushing you along the way. And that's what that letter or that contract was for me, is like, okay, I'm agreeing to this, and somebody else is agreeing to hold me accountable. And also I'm signing off to hold other people accountable too. So
absolutely. And then at the very bottom, from the very beginning, my expectation is to go out and disciple other guys at the conclusion of this. So unlike maybe a small group where it's like I can attend this for years and years without necessarily having to lead another one, or even come to church for years and years and not necessarily teach in any kind of capacity, from the very beginning. And I try to make it clear for you guys, like, as you're doing this, we're not going to meet for the next 8 10 years.
Yeah.
We're going to meet a year, 18 months, maybe 2 years. And when certain the Lord is compelling and equipping and able, you guys are intending to find 3 to 4 other guys and do the same thing that we've done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so we're coming pretty close to that time.
Yep.
And so you're praying specifically about guys that you want to disciple, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And so what's that prospect of moving from being in a group and then now potentially leading other guys in intentional growth?
I'm looking forward to it now. Back when you presented that, before I knew what to expect, it was just a trust that you're going to help me get to that point. But now that I've been through it, I don't see how I could go through my walk with Christ without having a discipleship group. And so at this point in my life, I'm looking forward to the next step of taking what we've done over the past 18 months and implement it with other people too. And hopefully they'll feel the same way at the end of it, that they want to continue this same group that just really, it's just a blessing really to your
Sure.
heart and soul.
So tell me, because I've seen some evidence of this, but what do you think's changed in your life from December 2023, I guess, when we kind of jumped into this until today?
Prior to our group, so I'm just a common Joe. Like, I go to work every day.
It's not true. You own a business. You plumb, you electric,
but
you do
it's
the whole
easy.
deal.
It's easy to go through the week without without thinking on the things of God, and so with this group, what I find more consistent in my life is like talking about the things of God throughout the week, because you're forced to talk about it each week with your discipleship group. It's one thing to wake up every morning and just read your devotions, and then you may think about it throughout the day, but you don't necessarily talk about it to other people. Sometimes not even your spouse. You may mention something to your spouse, but you may not. Just depends on if your schedules meet up. But now what I find is I'm consistently talking about the Lord more because I'm forced to talk about Him every week. And I want to talk about Him.
Sure.
I've always wanted to talk about Him, just didn't know how to do it. And just that practice of just telling other people what God's doing in your life has become, routine. So
Yeah, so it's not just, well, I'm waiting until Wednesday night at 7:30 till 9:30, unloading on these guys. I'm processing and getting used to that, and it's becoming a normative part of conversations with clients, with coworkers, with whoever it is that you come in contact with. Yeah, I think that's evident, not only for you, but the other two guys that are in our group that see and hear those similar things. They're not in a vocational ministry role.
Yep.
So they get, in my opinion, part of the joy is they're kind of on that front line edge and get to engage people that maybe aren't believers or maybe even are believers, but haven't heard anybody else talk about what it looks like to follow Christ. And so I think it's encouraging to me to see that happen in you guys' life, but also spurring that one another on. I think part of the joy in a discipleship group for me is we're memorizing scripture. We're doing some of these things that maybe left to my own self I might not do.
Right.
And certainly would not be encouraged to do. And nobody, like, I don't think in our group, nobody's like, hey guys, you need to get on this. I don't think anybody's ever had to say that.
Right. Yeah. No.
I think it's just the chance that we've come into the room and
we bought in is kind of the way I feel.
Sure.
About it. Like we bought into the group. And I think that's the most important thing. Like if you're going to do it, you need to buy in. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And if you really want to grow in the Lord, buy in. Do what you want to, like. Do the things that you're called to do in the group.
Yeah.
Memorize scripture. Read each week. Know what God's showing you. Pray, and your walk with the Lord definitely will grow.
But we haven't just come to the group week after week, we've like also shared lives. So it's like,
Yep.
Just a little bit ago, we went out Saturday. Our families went out and enjoyed a festival. The D group, our families went to the beach together.
Yep.
We eat meals together. Like, it's not a, hey, I'll see you at church, friend. kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
It's a, hey, we're going to do life together. And hopefully through that, picking up on how do we treat our wives? How are we caring for our kids? What do we discuss? Seeing some actual what Christ did with his disciples. Come follow me, I'll make you fishers of men. And so they didn't just get to hear his teaching or gather in these 1 week groups every week. They did some life with them. So I think our group's also taken on that aspect of like, hey, we're going to open up our lives to each other, and then enjoy relationship outside of even a typical church gathering or event, which I think is helpful.
For sure, yeah.
Especially sharing meals together and kind of dialoguing back and forth and fruitful in that. So, but thinking through it, I mean, the rumor is now you've been through this discipleship group. There's rumors you might teach coming up in a small group setting, which would be new. I know you've been teaching in the preteen area, which I think's been fruitful for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fruitful for you. I heard a rumor you're picking up some Greek, which is, I've done biblical Greek, 2 years of biblical Greek. Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart. What's it look like moving ahead now, I guess, knowing that part of this is going to come to a close to some degree, and moving ahead, what do you see the Lord doing? What are you excited about, and what's taking shape?
Yeah, so I think this group has given me a lot of confidence in like doing other things that I feel like the Lord's calling me to do, like teach the class. And I probably wouldn't have felt that way a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, because like I said, like just talking about Christ each and every day or each and every week just gives you more confidence to like teach about him. Like, I mean, you're reading deeply into the scriptures week after week. You're retaining a lot of knowledge, and it just begins to want to come out. And so I think that's why the Lord is kind of showing me like, maybe it's time to like start teaching. And actually, to go back to something you said a little while ago, just like holding each other accountable, and growing each other. When we first started working with the kids ministry, I was letting just Brianna do everything, and I was just helping her. And then you said, you told me to think about why you're just letting her like do everything, and why aren't you picking up some of the slack or taking a leadership role in that. And that was convicting for me. And so I felt convicted in that moment. And then since then, I began to teach, and she started supporting me in the class. And that has just grown me and then stretched me. And then it's time. That was one step. And then I feel like it's time to take another step, teaching adults. Sure. And so it's just really, I don't know, it's been beneficial. It's pushed me along the way. And yeah.
Well, that's awesome. It's good to hear how God's used kind of ordinary, small, obedient steps to continue to move you and your family down the road. Like, not only, obviously, Brianna coming on and serving in the kids ministry role, and you working in that ministry, but also seeing the evidence that God's continuing to draw you through, I think, through the Word, through the work of His Spirit. And so, what did I miss? Like, what else conversationally that you feel like we're talking about discipleship? This needs to be discussed. This one thing, we can't go forward without talking about this. Is there anything left that's meat on the bone, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like we touched on a lot of it. Maybe like, is there when setting up a group, is there an age range to a group? Would you like to like see other groups that are like more consolidated within their age, or spread out? Maybe have like somebody in their 70s, somebody in their 30s, somebody in their their 20s as we move forward with more and more groups being formed. Like, how do we form those groups, and kind of how should we?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't, there again with discipleship, I lean more into a more organic aspect of it, meaning when I asked you and the other two guys, I was just praying just like Jesus did. He went up on the mountain, mm-hmm. He prayed, he came down, he selected the 12. It felt like God was, hey, these are the 12 that I need to continue. Yeah. Now, there were more than 12 there. So some people felt like, well, why didn't I get picked? Right. And surely I selected 3 guys or asked 3 guys. Actually, I asked 4 guys, and one said, I can't do it right now in my life. And so we took on 3 guys, but that then excluded a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And so, but I think part of that is, who are those people you have natural relationship with? Who are those people that you feel like are yearning for more?
Yeah.
That are already consistent, they're already faithful, they're teachable, they want to learn, they want to grow. And that may be the 80-year-old and a 17-year-old. It might be 3 25-year-old. The range is really not that important. I think as our church is praying about who should I disciple, who should I invest my life in, the most important thing is not who has the most potential, because it's really hard to gauge potential, Right, yeah. But I think who's already walking the path of the Lord, who's open, who has the time to commit to it, because it's not it's not just show up for small group once a week. I mean, you're reading on your own every day. You're committing to pray. You're engaged in communication with one another. I'm not saying we have to go on vacation together. Not everybody in the group needs to do that, but surely there's more time commitment in this, and so people need to be clear, and there's an expectation to replicate. So I'm looking for, who do I think has enough influence to replicate this in the life of someone else? And there's some people that aren't ready to lead others, and that's okay. I'm not saying to exclude everybody who's unwilling to move forward, but for me, I know I have such a short amount of time on earth. I want to make sure that I'm discipling people that will make disciples, that will make disciples, and make disciples long after I'm gone. So looking at it that way is kind of the way that I would press people towards.
Right.
And having the ongoing trainings to look around the room and say, who else is interested in this? Right. If we have a training for discipleship, we're looking around the room. Maybe not everybody wants to do this. Maybe people hear about it and they go, that's not for me. But there's at least enough interest within the room that if I'm looking for people to disciple, I'm going to look and see who comes to this room, this training, and take those steps. So I think that's really important. My pastor used to say, I'm looking for fat people, people that are faithful, people that are available, and people that are teachable. So you have to be careful. You can't just go walking around like, hey, you want to be in my discipleship group, you're fat. Because then, you could ruffle some feathers. Right. But it sticks in your head, and you remember it, and you think those are 3 qualities that are necessary. Right. There may be other aspects that are helpful, but those are at least necessary.
Right.
And so I guess coming full circle, 2023 to now, which is 2025. So having a pretty long look at it, are you glad you took the step, I guess? Is it man, I've committed a lot of time here, I've signed paperwork, like this has been an intense journey. Are you glad taking a step, and what would you encourage someone else to be prayerfully considering as they're thinking, should I do this?
I'm definitely glad I took the step. It's worth everything I've invested in it, because I can see God being glorified through my life now. Not to say that He wasn't then, but it's just clear. And so definitely would do it all over again, and definitely want to do it all over again with some new people. And yeah.
So somebody else you would recommend them wholeheartedly?
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, I mean, I don't know what more we can give the affirmation here to make disciples, fulfill the Great Commission with intentionality and purpose. Thanks for taking time, talk through this, sitting under the bright lights, and having the chance and opportunity to encourage the church to consider discipleship. Jacob will be looking for people with discipleship, so if you have interest, find him. I'm sure he'd love to be able to take some direction. Looking forward to what God's going to do in and through that. Thanks for joining with us today. It's been a helpful conversation, fruitful. Love for you to be able to subscribe to this podcast, but also share it with somebody else that you think would be fruitful in the days ahead. Thanks for joining with us.